my sidekick standing on the box. Now I feel as if I should be. Harry Herbert is with me, and you'll know him. We interview him a lot with Highclere Thoroughbreds and also Royal Ascot Racing Club. But you're going to be our expert today on the Royal Procession. Is that all right?
Absolutely fine. Don't ask me too many questions about the fashion,
no.
But as far as how it goes and what happens within the procession, then yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
Well, the procession has started, and the Windsor Greys leading it through the Golden Gates at the top. And in the first carriage we have, of course, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, and with them the Earl of Rumney and Mr. John Warren, who is the Queen's racing advisor, and also Harry, your brother-in-law.
Absolutely, yes. He's responsible for buying all of our horses. He took over from my father. My father passed away a few years ago and became the Queen's bloodstock advisor. And I think a natural decision in the sense that he already knew the Queen, knew the form, brilliant at buying horses and recognising the finer points of a horse, and now responsible for all of her bloodstock. And terrifically exciting day recently, of course, in the Derby.
And I have to say, John was superb in the build-up to the Derby and afterwards in terms of communicating with the media. In the second carriage, we have Prince Michael of Kent. We have Princess Michael of Kent closest to us there. We have Lady Caroline Warren, and we have Edward Young, who's Deputy Private Secretary to the Queen. And Lady Caroline Warren is your sister.
Yes, look at her.
We did get you on a good day. We got you on a very good day.
Look at her. She's looking fantastic. She's wonderful. She runs Highclere Stud. She acts as a sort of informal lady-in-waiting to the Queen on specific horsey occasions. And she's done a tremendous job at the stud, leading consigners for the last 4 years. And, of course, she and John, great partnership together. I think they wake up in the morning thinking about horses and go to bed thinking about them. So a good combo.
In the third carriage, we have the Countess of Rumney. We have Mr. Bernard Cantor, who is Chief Executive of Investec, the sponsors of the Derby. He's closest to us, and his wife as well is in there, and Lieutenant Colonel Charles Richards, who's equerry to the Queen and Deputy Master of the household. And make sure, Harry, and you'll know this, you were in the Royal Procession earlier this week, had lunch at Windsor Castle. Charles always makes sure that you do everything right and actually puts people at ease.
He's fantastic, Charles. He is absolutely amazing. He does the most brilliant job for the Queen. He does make everyone feel at ease. He's always there. He's always a few steps just behind the Queen, making sure it all goes smoothly. And actually lovely to see him in the carriages. Yesterday he was waving us off in the carriages, and today lovely to see him in them. And of course Bernard Cantor, what a phenomenal job he does for racing, and of course responsible for Investec and the Derby.
And in the final carriage we have Mr. and Mrs. Carl Peter Forster, and Carl Peter is Chief Executive of Tata Motors, who their British unit includes the ownership of Jaguar and Land Rover, and also Mr. and Mrs. Michael Enriquez, and Michael is a Director of Cheltenham and Deputy Senior Steward to the Jockey Club. And it's not, they don't come by carriage the whole way from Windsor Castle, do they?
No, you have a fantastic lunch at Windsor Castle. Yesterday, I can't tell you how good it was, very spoiling. Noticeably, the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh not having their desserts. That's why they look so sprightly and so well, I think. But for the rest of us, tucking in. And then, yes, you get driven down the long walk, about 3 or 4 miles away from here. You get out of the cars and then into the carriages. And it really is the most spoiling and exciting thing I think you can possibly do. The route is lined with school children, old age pensioners, everyone waving and cheering. You see the most amazing sights. And of course, as the carriages come down the straight here, not far from now is when the band strikes up the national anthem, and you're prompted by those very smart gentlemen and ladies on the back to remove your hat, and the noise swells. It's an incredible feeling, and as I say, a great privilege to have been in there yesterday.
And for Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, very important to them that they are seen by as many people as possible. And were they not such stalwart characters, you might have thought, you know, it's a cold day, it might rain, let's go by car. But no, here they are in the open carriages, braving the elements and saying this is an important part of what makes Royal Ascot such a unique occasion. We will do the procession, we will do it properly, and we will do it despite the weather.
Absolutely. And I did ask the Queen yesterday at tea, I said, ma'am, do you know what the ground's like? Can you tell after all these years of coming down the straight at Ascot? And she looked at me and said, well, of course I do, she said, and it's pretty soft out there today. The horses, especially I think probably lumbering my great weight around, seemed to be doing it very easily, but she can tell the ground, and they are the most beautiful animals. It's a great scene, a great sight. and certainly from me and my share owners and some owners of mine that come from America and all over the world, this is one thing that they absolutely do not want to miss. Leave lunch, leave their friends, and try and get the best vantage point to see a site that is truly unique to British racing.
Unique in sport, unique in terms of events, and a wonderful view from those in the grandstand, and a great view from those carriages in the centre of the course, or centre to stand side of the course. They're coming down. They must have decided that the ground's a bit quicker there. A great view from those carriages of that grandstand. As Harry says, they're getting to the point now where we will hear the national anthem. Are replaced and the procession continues. It will turn left from the course through the tunnel and then come in right behind us into the paddock area here. And it's remarkable as a social event. It's quite a test of stamina this week, isn't it, for any person who's coming racing all 5 days, having people to stay and giving dinner parties and all sorts.
It really is. It is a week, I think, that tests everybody, especially if you're doing all 5 days. But you have no real cause for complaint, because I think if you look at the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh and you think one is 90 and the other is 85, and they do it with sort of utmost
so that
ease.
Age, you see, you don't mind at that age.
And I think quite right too, starting at that age. Hopefully the race goers and the racehorse owners of the future. And this is the moment as the carriages turn underneath the grandstand yesterday, where you got the sort of the first few folks that you know or recognise, and the first sort of comments and chat and jeers and other come in. It's a great time now under the grandstand, bearing left through the unsaddling area, and then of course into the parade ring itself. Do
you feel self-conscious though when you're in the parade, because it's very exposing, isn't it?
Very self-conscious. With my children last night, we had a look at the replay of yesterday, and I thought how very casual to put my arm outside the carriage. As somebody, I thought, oh, that looks really awful. I think you do feel self-conscious. You don't quite know whether to wave or not to wave. You're encouraged to wave at the children, but then you just enjoy it at the end of the day. As I say, it's a great privilege, and the sounds and I think the atmosphere of everybody at the beginning of a race day like this is incredible, and the warmth felt towards Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh is incredible, and I think that's something that I'll certainly take away with me.
Just to give you details on what the Queen is wearing today, it's a Carl Ludwig dress and coat, lemon silk dress with purple and green print, and a buttercup-coloured crepe coat. And the hat is by Angela Kelly, and that is buttercup-coloured wool crepe with a lilac brim and pink and green feathers. I could have asked you, Harry, to give those details, but I thought probably best not.
Absolutely, not something that I would know too much about, but she does look fantastic, and I think she's getting younger. I don't know, maybe it's because she didn't have that cream pancake yesterday.
And your father had a wonderful working relationship with the Queen, and really helped develop the bloodstock side of things. And John, I think, has hugely enjoyed the conversations that he has, and getting to know and understand the Queen better.
Absolutely. My father used to talk to the Queen pretty much every day, and that John now does that as well. And I think it forms a very close friendship, and as John and my father always said, her knowledge of bloodstock and pedigrees is second to none.
Duke of York there leading the other guests of the royal party who have come in detached motor cars.
Yes, and they wait just, as you see, just before the main parade ring there, and they wave and cheer the carriages through as well.
I realise I sound very old-fashioned saying detached motor cars, but that's officially how it is described. I do just say car.
We missed our lift back last night because we had sensors running in the last race and completely forgot where we were meant to be at the right time. I think it's a real no-no. They'd all gone. We had to take a taxi back to Windsor Castle.
they let the taxi through the gates all right?
They did, thank goodness. Charles Richards has done his job, and we were allowed through.
Real cheers today. It seems actually with the dullness of the weather, the crowd have actually reacted in opposition to that and are being even more animated and warm in their reception for the royal procession. And John Warren just helping out there, making sure the rugs are safely stored.
They always want to do this, the royal family, and they look up at the skies, and so long as there's any chance whatsoever of being able to come in open carriages, and the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh want to do that. And we've had the last 2 days, it's looked very dodgy indeed, but thank goodness got away with it, and just the one day to go tomorrow now.
Well, I know you've got a very busy day and a runner in the first, Harry, so I ought to let you go. Any big chances today? You've gone close a few times this week.
Well, we've got two lovely fillies running today. Inetrabile, who won her only race and didn't perhaps beat anything, but she's a grand filly. And then the very tricky Memory, who failed to exit the stalls in the 1,000 guineas. She started favourite that day, but she's been reorganised, as Richard Hannon has said many times to us. She's gone to different race courses. She's come out of the stalls well, and we're hopeful that if she does that and she gets going, gets running, then we know she's good enough to trouble anyone in any race. So yeah, we're, as always, very optimistic.
Well, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for helping us out there. Real inside track from Harry Herbert on the royal procession, and I'll let him dash away. And he was mentioning Census, their runner in the last race last night. He was captain of the team behind this horse. Richard Hughes took the ride, well fancied as well, was joint favourite for the King George V Stakes. And there was Liz Hurley, who is part of the syndicate.
But as far as how it goes and what happens within the procession, then yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
Well, the procession has started, and the Windsor Greys leading it through the Golden Gates at the top. And in the first carriage we have, of course, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, and with them the Earl of Rumney and Mr. John Warren, who is the Queen's racing advisor, and also Harry, your brother-in-law.
Absolutely, yes. He's responsible for buying all of our horses. He took over from my friend, recognising the finer points of a horse, and now responsible for all of her bloodstock. And terrifically exciting day recently, of course, in the Derby.
And I have to say, John was superb in the build-up to the Derby and afterwards in terms of Kit's my sidekick standing on the box. Now I feel as if I should be. Harry Herbert is with me, and you'll know him. We interview him a lot with Highclere Thoroughbreds and also Royal Ascot Racing Club. But you're going to be our expert today on the Royal Procession. Is that all right?
Absolutely fine. Don't ask me too many questions about the fashion. My father passed away a few years ago and became the Queen's bloodstock advisor, and I think a natural decision in the sense that he already knew the Queen, knew the form, brilliant at buying horses and